I've heard a lot that Microsoft is known for its work life balance. And one, they retain the talent for a longer period of time, is also something I've heard. And people love to retire there, which also tells me that it has a good work life balance. How true is this? For that internship, give us the timeline. Like, when did you start applying for it?
Pretty much started as soon as I got the acceptance.
Oh, wow.
When you land in the US, you really have no time to absorb it all, right? So hourly ranges are from, I've heard, around 60 to 80 per hour, depending on
What?
yeah, especially for this job market, hands-on experience is great. I mean, you can do a lot of coursework. It's all good, like you can have amazing grades. But if you don't have like hands-on experience proving that you have those skills, it gets really hard for the recruiters to pinpoint.
Before you watch this, I want to quickly say that most people underutilize LinkedIn. They don't understand the power of LinkedIn and how to leverage LinkedIn to get jobs. I have built an ultimate course. It's going to teach you everything from optimizing your profile, getting sourced by a recruiter on LinkedIn. There are live examples, and also how to use LinkedIn and leverage LinkedIn to create the job opportunity that didn't even exist. You didn't even know that it existed. Let me give you a quick sneak peek, and I will tell you that more than 350 students have joined this course and they are loving it. And you can see everything from setting your profile, networking, search techniques, job hunting technique, and like live examples where I'm actually reaching out to people and doing cold networking, etc. You'll also get free plugin, premium plugin for H1B and OPT and all of that. So I highly recommend you check out. Link will be in the description. Thank you, Aakansha, for doing this. I am excited. Like I was saying before as well, that it's going to be fun and insightful conversation. I know there's a Georgia Tech story, but then there's also Microsoft PM story, and how you got there. So let's start. Before we do any of that, let's do like a quick intro. Where are you from? When did you come to United States? Yeah, like what did you study, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to have a chat with you about my journey, and I guess learning together is what I really look forward to in these conversations. So, just a quick introduction about myself. I come from India. I come from a city town called Ranchi. If you know about it, it's
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oni's hometown. That's how I introduce myself to people. And I've spent my all of my years in India. Like before coming to the US, that's how I studied in school. I went to undergrad in NIT Surathkal in information technology. After I graduated from there, I went on to work at Oracle for like a year in Bangalore before I moved for my master's in the US.
Nice. You are Microsoft PM, right?
I am a product manager right now, yes, at Microsoft.
Nice. Like, I always wanted to ask these people who work in like the big tech company, what is it like to like work for big tech? Do you get to work on uh, end-to-end products, or is it pretty much like you get to work on a smaller feature?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, like I would imagine, like everyone has that impression, like Microsoft has tons and tons of people, different teams, a lot of different products and features that maybe not a lot of people care about, right, across industry. But I think it really depends on the team that you're in, basically. So the good thing about being a product manager at Microsoft is you get like a lot of exposure cross team and cross function. So maybe in the early stage of your career, you won't get to work like end to end on a full product. But definitely, like each and every product inside Microsoft has tons of different features. So, as a younger or like early career PM, you would get to work on specific features end to end. So maybe adding something in an existing product, or like deprecating something, or basically innovation in terms of strategizing an existing product. You might get those opportunities. And yes, Microsoft does provide you an ability to kind of like coordinate and communicate with different functions such as engineering. Obviously, you're working very closely with them as a product manager. You also get to work with design, strategy, finance,
Mm.
customer research. So there's a lot of processes which kind of aligns you to work with different teams in different ways and develops those relationship building skills. So I think that's the major plus point of working in bigger companies, which maybe you won't get in smaller companies or startups.
Mm. Where are you based right now? Seattle?
Yeah, no, I was in Seattle, but I have moved to the Bay Area, in
Oh,
California. Yeah, starting.
I was in Bay Area last week. All week I was in
Oh,
Bay Area.
oh,
Yeah.
nice. Were you here for like a work thing?
Yeah, it was a work trip, and I am only 3 hours far from Bay Area, so I am north of Bay Area, and I visit often. I have a lot of friends, and next time I come, I'll like ping you, see if we can like hang out while you are there.
Yeah, yeah. Let's have like a conversation in person the next time you're in.
Yeah, yeah. Is it different? Like, is the how was the transition? So Seattle to Bay Area. Like, what do you like? Is it different for you, or do you feel like it's pretty much same in terms of like location, like the Bay Area wise?
Yeah, so basically, Seattle, like Microsoft headquarters is located in Redmond. And it was great working in the headquarters in terms of like work kind of
Mm,
dynamics. Um, but I feel I really like the office in Bay Area. We have a lot of different amenities. It's more kind of shrunk into a smaller space. So you have different things close to each other compared to the huge Microsoft campus in Redmond. Other things that I love to do in Seattle, which I don't get to do a lot here, is hiking, kind of the outdoorsy stuff, which is not very accessible, I think, in the Bay Area because I have to drive farther for like the nice mountain hikes. But Seattle
mm.
has a lot of that during the summer. But like obviously the cons in Seattle is basically the weather is mostly like gloomy, rainy, and like the Bay Area weather trumps all of that. So I think the weather is a huge plus here.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the Indian community, like I don't know, does Seattle has a lot of like a big Indian community, or compared to Bay Area?
Not as big as Beta. It does have a good Indian community, basically because the Microsoft and Amazon headquarters are both located in Seattle, and there
Mm.
are many different companies like Google, Meta, and like all Apple. All of these companies are do have offices in Seattle. So a lot of immigrants, especially from India, are settled in Seattle as well.
Mm, got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised you say there's not a lot of hiking spots, but now that I was there for like a week, I can imagine because you do have to drive. There obviously is ocean, and then there's a lot of like because California has everything you can ask for, like mountains, ocean, lakes. Like you have Yosemite, you have like all the blue water oceans, and then you also have like Lake Tahoe, etc. So, but it is far. Like you have to drive like couple hours. Yeah.
Yosemite is 4 hours from where I live. Compared to Seattle, I could do like a day trip to Mount Rainier, and I could come back
Mm.
the same day. I can't do that with Yosemite.
Yeah. Okay. Back to Microsoft work-life balance. I've heard a lot that Microsoft is known for its work-life balance, and people one they retain the talent for a longer period of time is also something I've heard, and people love to retire there, which also tells me that it has a good work-life balance. How true is this? What you're going to watch is an amazing story, but before you watch that, I just want to quickly say that all of these story I compile the key insights from these stories and all the podcasts that I do, and I put this in my free exclusive newsletter community. Every week more than 16,000 people receive my newsletter and they love it. And here are some of the examples. You can see this was a podcast on George Mason universities, and you can see how to network and 10% cold emailing, powerful LinkedIn techniques, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in becoming part of this exclusive newsletter community, absolutely free. Link is in the description, or you can go to udj.com/newsletter.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard the same from a lot of people. I would say my work life balance is decent, much more manageable than what I hear from a lot of other friends in other companies. I don't have horror stories of my any of my team members like getting slammed with
Hmm.
works so much they could not like do any other thing. But I would say it's very cyclical. Basically, like right now, I do have a product release coming very soon, so I like this August month. I anticipate is going to be more busy, and which is turning out to be true. I am giving in more hours, but once the release is done, you can kind of hold back a little bit and work in normal scheduled working hours as normal. But I mean, it's definitely dependent on the kind of product that you're working on as a PM.
Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
you're, let's say, working on a team, for example, which works with like OpenAI, like Azure OpenAI, they really align their kind of roadmap with the OpenAI company, which is a weekly changing roadmap, and there
Yeah.
you would not have the great like work-life balance or like whatever is the image of
Hmm.
Microsoft outside,
Hmm.
right? So it really depends on the team, but in general, I feel like Microsoft culture really embodies that life outside of work is important. We do have a lot of benefits around the same as well. So, I mean, you can always have a chat with the manager if your plate is really full, and then you can cut back on things and prioritize depending on your like schedule, like personal schedule as well.
Got it. Have you gotten chance to meet with Satya Nadella yet or no?
Not one on one. I've been in places where he is also present. So basically, when he's giving like a talk and stuff like that, but I've not gotten a chance to talk with him one on one.
I don't know if this is like, I know Nvidia, I was in Nvidia again for work trip, but
Yeah.
people like when the CEO comes and gives a talk, everyone like then wants goes and asks for a selfie or a photo. Does that happen with Satya as well or no?
I have not seen him giving out selfies. Yeah, I know Jensen is pretty like Jensen Huang is pretty kind of responding when everyone asks for selfie. He's very involved with all of the people in the company. But I mean, at the scale which Microsoft operates, I Satya will be slammed with requests. Like I will be a line across the room for a selfie
Yeah.
request. I think I've never seen it happen.
Right. Okay. Cool. So I want to take you back to Georgia Tech. I know you did masters in Georgia Tech, and we will talk more about like why Georgia Tech and all of that in a separate podcast. But uh, when did you start like your job hunt journey? So your masters was year and a half, and did you have internship during that masters?
Yes, I did my internship in Microsoft as a software
Oh, okay.
engineer. Yeah.
And did that convert into full time?
Yes.
Okay. So for that internship, when like give us the timeline, like when did you start like applying for it?
Yeah. So this might alarm some people. I don't want to cause any kind of alarms here when I talk about it because I have heard mixed reactions when I say about tell any story about this preparation phase. But like I pretty much started as soon as I got the acceptance email.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
so it's pretty intense. That's why I wanted to kind of preface this was like a trigger warning.
Right.
So, because like I said, I had a lot of seniors back in university who also went through the same process, and they had advised me in advance, basically that whenever you go for a master's in a US university, the timeline to bag an internship is pretty limited, especially
Hmm.
for bigger companies.
Hmm.
So I was pretty proactive. Basically, like I got the Georgia Tech acceptance and I started working towards like updating my resume, sort of reading up, like brushing up on my DSA skills, my analytics skills, my system design, and all of that. Started reading, cracking the coding interview, and all of that.
Hmm.
So preparation started as soon as my acceptance letter came and as soon as I accepted Georgia Tech. Application started when I arrived in the US. So basically, I made sure that I was prepared well in advance before I started applying, which may or may not be true for a lot of other people. I know other people have all of these skills fresh out of college, depending on when you're applying, right? So I had worked in Oracle for a year and I was a little out of touch with all of these concepts. So I wanted to kind of brush it up. But if you're right after college, then you might be more kind of in touch with these interview skills. But make sure that you are kind of pretty much ready for your interviews when you're applying. So as soon as I landed, like I remember August 12th, 2018 was the day that I landed here. And as soon as I landed, after all of the formalities, I started applying to different companies. And I remember Microsoft did like a campus visit August, like last week of August. So I made sure everything was polished. My resume was reviewed by multiple people, and then I my basics were cleared of different concepts in computer science before I approached the recruiter, and my interview started ASAP.
Mm.
The only reason I say this is because when you land in the US, you really have no time to absorb it all, right? As soon as you land, there's a lot of different variables that are around you. Like your housing situation is sometimes not finalized, you're dealing with culture shock, you're dealing with a new environment altogether. So, like,
The big boss drama.
exactly. I try to minimize all of these variables like as much as possible around my internship. And this is why like
Mm.
my internship I got my internship in October, like first week of October.
Mm. That
So
must be such a great feeling, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel uh, having something sorted in the first semester itself for the next summer, like you have entire your spring semester must be so chill because you're like, I'm gonna be in Microsoft, no problem at all, and like I can actually enjoy the university life,
yeah,
right?
it was a huge plus. Honestly, yes, because I was seeing people around me still struggling to find internships and preparing for it. And when I was completely focused on my coursework, completely focused on the experiences around
Mm,
me, like I was a part of clubs and sort of like active there. So I was able to give more time to that rather than having to focus on finding an
yeah.
internship, which takes automatically your entire time after your coursework.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, looking for job or internship is like a full time thing only. Like you spend so much of your emotional energy and your physical time. So yeah,
Yeah,
100%. And
definitely.
there's just I have so many questions. And first of all, I thank you for saying that because I have been screaming my lungs out. Uh, it's the same thing that you are not going to have time. Your life is going to be drastically different. I think people underestimate the time management aspect of it when they are in India or their home country. They think they will be able to manage everything,
Yeah.
but like in fact it's opposite. When you are in India, you have your mom cooking the food for you, you have things taken care for you, so you have a lot more time and you can actually prepare for it versus landing here because there's so many other things that you're going to be worried about.
Correct.
And so I'm so glad that you did what I have been saying, and I'm like you're a live example. So I'm very happy that you said it. But like I want to understand what is it pretty much your seniors guiding you that before you come be prepared with all of this. So is it the cohort of Georgia Tech that everyone is like this? The quality of the cohort, like everyone is like proactive and they are like taking the initiative, and so the peers also make you feel like okay, everyone is doing, I need to do it as well.
No, that's a great question. So I guess to be clear, my seniors at NIT Surathkal really guided me
Hmm. Okay.
to kind of be prepared for internships as and when I land for a master's course. But yeah, like I think I was pretty proactive with interacting with my seniors when I was applying. I was getting my SOP reviewed through them, and I think everyone does, right? Everyone has that reviewer.
You
Basically,
would be surprised not everyone does that, but sure, go ahead.
yeah, sorry to assume. I guess I apologize, but I think
Yeah.
you should have a person, a peer, or like a paired person who was maybe applying with you, or maybe has applied in the previous years and has
Hmm.
some experience to share, where you can review your SOP. So I had like a web of people, right? So basically, I sent my SOPs to seniors, peers, people who I worked with, and all of that who I can confide in, right? So my seniors really were like a great resource, and they repeatedly told me that like what I should expect as soon as I land, I should be prepared with, what are the different cultural things I should take care of, what are some gotchas in terms of your coursework, like how does coursework kind of
Mm,
happen in the university, right? Because the education system is drastically different. So I really took their advice and then started preparing. But like as you said, Georgia Tech is a great university. I had amazing people along with me who were going towards the same goal. And I think the culture of the university is also very collaborative. I've heard different things about different universities, but I'm not going to take names. Maybe if you are. But like Georgia Tech in general, the people that I was surrounded with, they were very supportive. And we used to like take mock interviews. And even when I
mm,
got the internship, I offered to help a lot of my friends kind of apply and reach out to the recruiters that reach out to me. Although I've
mm,
already got an internship, I used to give them a contact and kind of like help arrange interviews, right? So very collaborative community. And I feel like a lot of hardworking people around me also like inspired me to do better every day. So I think
mm.
that was very helpful.
Got it. I love that. And when you say seniors, you mean seniors in Georgia Tech and your NIT seniors who are in different universities in United States, correct?
Correct. Yes, that's right.
Got it. Okay. So, and when you said that, okay, I started preparing, not the application part of it, but you started working on yourself. So, first thing you mentioned is resume. Uh, if you can, like, remember, also, like, do you do interviews now at Microsoft?
I do, yes.
Oh wow. Okay, so there's gonna be like an interesting side of this. But what did you do, or what changes now that you've been working in the industry? You feel like, okay, here is what people should do for resume.
I think so. For especially for this job market, hands-on experience is really important. I mean, you can do a
Hmm.
lot of coursework. It's all good. Like you can have amazing grades, but if you don't have like hands-on experience proving that you have those skills, it gets really hard for the recruiters to pinpoint. Because of that, I did kind of want to get some work experience as well before I started applying for masters. Like I always knew I was going to go for masters, but I wanted like real life work experience and corporate work experience. So that's why I chose to kind of work in Oracle and gain those experiences before I applied for masters. So if you don't have that, if you want to apply right after college, make sure you have a really good industry level internships or projects that
Hmm.
showcase your skills, and put that in a resume like at the top, and
Hmm.
describing an impact, like where was that you made impact, what was the magnitude of it, and what was the outcome basically. So that is very important, and if the recruiters or the hiring managers see those, that's automatically like a yes for them for an interview. And internship kind of process, internship interviews are pretty much more lightweight
Yeah.
than the
Yeah.
full time. So make sure your resume is also lightweight. So basically, what I say is like kind of one page resume, really crisp and describing only the important projects that you did in university. I know people do a lot of different projects in the university. So only the important ones. Maybe you published a paper, like write about that project. Maybe you kind of presented in a conference or like an inter college event or something, write about that. And then if you have any awards, I would also like highlight a few couple major awards that
Hmm.
also show the credibility. So I think whatever shows your credibility is important. You go because everyone does courseworks. Like everyone who is applying from an undergrad or any school in India, anywhere else, has courses under their belt. But how do you show that you're credible for that skill?
Yeah. And how do you differentiate? Because everyone is doing the same things. Yeah. So, work experience and interesting projects you have been working, which is live, actual users are using it. That would be something interesting as well. So, from a resume structure perspective, I'm assuming this just from your answer that you had header, which has your name, the details of LinkedIn and GitHub and all of that.
Yeah.
Then comes experience or education depending on what, like in your case you had a real like oracle, so maybe you want to highlight that I do
I think
have.
it's first. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what
Yeah,
I would recommend as well. Like if you do have a industry experience, always highlight that first.
yeah,
Then you do skills, then you do projects or projects, skills, education, awards, whatever. Is that
yeah.
fair?
That makes sense. Yes, and try to keep it like one page. I would
Yeah.
say. There are conflicting guidelines on the internet. Like you can do 2 pages, but I have not seen any kind of like internship resume have more than 1 page.
Okay. And then I think another thing that people struggle with is quantifying the results or accomplishments. Do you have any? How did you think about it? Because this might be new for you when you were building your resume, and I'm sure your seniors probably said like you need to put numbers, you need to quantify what you did instead of
Yeah.
just saying like this is what you're doing. So how did you think about it?
Yeah, so I think basically try to put the impact in your statement first. So how to think about the impact if you're working on like a design project, like if you've not like released anything and that's just like a design thing, try to think about how many stakeholders you worked with, how many people you interacted with, how many hours you helped save the teams by your
Hmm.
coordination, all of that. Try to think on those terms, and then the eventual impact that design would have in like a larger, maybe like the business like opportunity, like total addressable market and all of that. Try to think about that when you're writing something that has not been rolled out yet. If something's been rolled out, there are very specific things to measure those successes: revenue, adoption rate, engagement rate, like solving customer issues, like what kind of issues were solved, basically. So, like customer support ticket numbers, hours, and all of that. You can include that in your impact statement. So, start normally how I address impact in my experience is I start with the impact, like I helped achieve XYZ by activity through ABC teams.
So the XYZ rule of Google, which is I think they have that as well. Like I
Yeah,
accomplished this, through this using these tools.
exactly.
Or yeah, got it.
Those tools are
Nice.
different things. Yeah.
Okay, great. So your resume was ready. You brushed up on your. Interestingly, you said DSA. So that sounds like SDE. Did you start as an SDE and transition to PM?
Yes, that's correct. I started with an SDE role in my internship as well, and started as a full-time SDE after my master's, and then internally transitioned to PM.
So we should talk about that as well. Okay, so you brushed up DSA. You started. Did you start lead code before coming?
Yes, lead code, hacker rank, both of these.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, and then you landed. You figured out the like logistics things, and last week you said Microsoft came to the campus. What do you mean by that? Like for a career fair?
Yeah, so interestingly, Georgia Tech has these day in the lobby events, which is not exactly career fair. It's basically one company on one day. They kind of organize an event in the computer science department, and you
Hmm.
can go attend that event, submit your resume, talk to the recruiters there, and submit your application as well. They have application links. So that's the good thing about Georgia Tech. So even before the career fair, you can go apply to your targeted companies. So I believe they still do this. So that's what I meant by Microsoft came to the campus.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting. I think I know, like, I went to California State University. I know we do invite a lot of startups and mid sized companies. We also have Intel, which comes. And that's right, they also have openings open, but it's not specifically a recruiting event. It is just like they come and talk about what projects they're working on, etc. So this is good. Like is it Microsoft only, or like what are other companies that come to Georgia Tech?
Oh, loads of companies. I think I went for Meta, went for Amazon.
Oh wow.
Yeah, lots of different companies come. Yeah.
I guess now it makes sense why the fees is worth it. Yeah. So okay, so you went to this, but then there was something you said as well, that you made sure everything was polished and everything was ready. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what did you take care of it before actually going to that event?
So the resume is the most important part, I guess, which we already talked about. The second thing is whenever you go to such events, normally sometimes the recruiter also asks some questions on your background, as well as they can also ask some specific question on your project. So make sure you know what you're writing in your resume.
Hmm.
So they can kind of pinpoint one thing and ask a question about that. I have also been asked like behavioral questions in these sort of interactions, right? So, like you worked with so many teams, how did you handle coordination? So, basically, all of that. So, make sure you have the answers to what you're writing in your resume at the minimum.
Hmm.
And so that's what I meant by being polished and kind of doing your homework. When you go stand in the line, make sure you are, I mean, maybe presentable. I
Yeah.
know it's kind of conflicting views for that, but I truly believe that being presentable really has a good first impression. And
Yeah.
that's the second thing I'd recommend.
Yeah. And I think now comes the most important question for a lot of introverts. I don't know if you were an introvert, but I'm an introvert as well. So I think this is where like it gets very tricky, because we as an introvert, we are like very nervous in these events, because there's like thousands of students, and then there are people who are extrovert and they can just talk, but we don't, like, we have to think, we have to have this whole conversation in our head, thinking like, okay, I'll say this, but then what will they think, and we overanalyze this thing.
Yeah,
I don't know, like, if you are an introvert or extrovert. Well, like, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert?
I'm an extrovert, maybe an
Yeah.
ambivert, I guess.
Nice. Okay. So what conversation do you have? So you are in line, you're waiting for your turn to come to meet a recruiter. Like, what's the first thing you like? How do you plan that conversation?
So I believe that a lot of people do. Let me answer that by describing a situation where you're standing in
Huh.
line waiting
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
your turn,
Yeah.
and you basically see other people coming back from the recruiter conversation. So what a lot of people do is kind of come ask that people like, hey, what question did you get asked? Hey, what did the recruiter say? I would strongly encourage not to do that, because then you're building up your nervous system. Like if someone
Mm.
tells you something that you don't know, like oh my god, like recruiter asked them this, I don't know the answer to this. It might be because they have something on their resume that kind of prompted the recruiter to ask that question. But I would say that like when you are going to the recruiter, go with like a fresh mind, just knowing your things and whatever you have on your resume, and try to steer the conversation around that. So you can take charge. So basically when you approach the recruiter, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. Recruiter will tell you to, mostly the first question recruiter asks is to introduce yourself. And in that introduction, you can kind of steer the conversation, right? Go to your best known project of yours, whichever is most fresh in your mind, and you know Microsoft or any other company is focusing on that kind of projects, and then try to kind of talk about that. So like I was working in Oracle in the cloud division, so I started with that, like hey, I worked in Oracle cloud, worked in XYZ project, this was my impact, blah blah blah. So as soon as they hear cloud, they ask me more questions about it, and that's why I got the allocation to the Azure team, because like I said cloud. I did my internship in the cloud team as well. So try
Hmm.
to steer the conversation to a topic which you know most in that first introduction.
Great. I love how you put this together, and I also like the answer that you said, that don't try to predict, like, ask who people who are coming, and you're like, hey, so how was it, and then that kind of, you start to build that nervous system, like you get nerves, like, okay, oh no, like, hey, they spoke about this, I don't even know anything about it, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you, in your case, you spoke, made the conversation with the recruiter. Did you mention that you're already applied to that position, that they're like, or like, how did that conversation go? Like, did you say that, by the way, I also applied for the position that you guys are like hiring for? I don't know, like, did you at all address that, or was it just a conversation and you left it?
Yeah, so I guess in the end of the conversation, the recruiter encouraged me to apply online. And
Mm.
I told them, right, basically that, hey, this was the link, I saw it in your careers portal, which I've already applied for. Then they asked me for the link, and they kind of validated that that's for the correct job opening. And yeah, that was it. So basically they told me, okay, it's great that you have applied already. I will associate, like, I will take notes and associate this conversation with that application, and you should hear back if there's a fit. So basically that was the end of the conversation.
Okay, so then after few days, few weeks, you hear back that all right, we're gonna interview you for SD position, and it's an internship. Was that the only interview, or did you have like other offers for interviews as well?
Yeah, I did interview with quite a few other companies. So I interviewed with Twilio,
Hmm.
interviewed with Amazon, and I think one other company, which is not like a bigger one. I forget which one right now. So yeah,
Hmm.
I did interview few other companies. Basically, went to career fair for Meta, Google, and all of that. So I think Microsoft interview process was very like quick. As soon as that kind of the day in the lobby thing was interaction was over, they reached back out to me like within a week with like a first interview, which was 30 minutes in the campus itself. So
Hmm.
representatives of Microsoft came to the campus again, and they were interviewing for like a first screening round, 30 minutes, like one question, one technical question, lots of behavioral questions. And then I got an invitation for like an on-site, good old days where they flew us out to Seattle in a very nice five-star hotel,
Nice.
and reimbursed everything. I know a lot of interviews today like a virtual, so I really feel sad for all the people who are doing it right
Yeah,
now.
but I don't
So
know. Like I feel like remote interviews might be less nerve wracking than in person.
I believe otherwise. Honestly, when
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, I don't know, like when I am with in a presence of like an actual person, they somehow seem less intimidating to me
That's
compared.
your extrovert speaking out.
Yeah, I think I do have a lot of distractions when I'm speaking on camera because, like, I have a
Yeah, yeah,
phone
yeah.
here, I
Right.
have an application open somewhere, and like my brain is like, oh my God, there's so much happening around me.
Mm,
But when I'm talking to like an actual person, like that focus and attention is 100% on them. And I also like to read off like body language and all of that. So, like,
yes, the non-verbal cues are very important in interviews. 100% agreed.
very strong,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I
And
think, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just finishing up. Like when they flew us out to Seattle, we had like 3 or 4 rounds, more technical behavioral system design, and then that was the end. Then I got a call
Even
with,
for internships?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Did you have the online assessment, or is that not a thing for internship?
I don't know about right now, but when I gave the interview, the 30 minutes initial round that I told earlier was like an assessment for like the full loop.
Okay, got it. And
Yeah.
so for people who wants to get into the big tech SD role, what are the things you would recommend? Is it the hacker rank, lead code, TSA, cracking the coding interview, anything else?
Geeks for Geeks. Geeks for Geeks is an amazing resource to
Hmm.
brush up your basics in lesser time.
Hmm. Okay. And is there any like routine you followed? Like, okay, every day I'm gonna do this, something like that, or no?
I tried to be flexible because honestly, like when I was preparing back in India, I had a full time job still. So whenever I just wanted, I had a list and I wanted to cover that list basically. So I
Hmm.
just noted down things that were important for internship interviews. I did not do company specific targeted preparation for internships because internships are pretty much general across the companies because they're looking for general candidates. They place interns like after they
Hmm.
select them mostly.
What about blind 75? Did you do that?
No, did
Oh,
not.
okay.
I
Interesting.
I just I focused on my concepts. So basically, what are the
Hmm.
concepts do I want to cover? I just made a list of it and then went to all of the resources that I listed and practice questions, like saw like articles and all of that related to that concept. So I went subject matter by subject matter, not by like how many
Got it.
hours or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
routine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. What are some of the concept you focused on? or would you recommend people to focus on?
So hash maps, very important. Like cover
Hmm.
all of the hash map questions you can, because I can guarantee you will get it. You will be asked that somewhere for your internships. It can, like, for internships, I guess lead code easy medium for hash maps should be enough. I guess the second question is like relations, like trees, graphs, the graph traversal algorithms, and all of that is very
Hmm.
important. You can cover that. The third is basically dynamic programming. Very annoying, but I got asked that everywhere. Like even with my Microsoft internship interviews, I was asked dynamic programming questions. So every company asks that. Google is very notorious for asking the same. So make
Yeah.
sure your dynamic programming basics are very clear. So these three were the style of questions I practiced the most. And then system design concepts like your computer science basics are also important.
Hmm. So I was when I was interviewing for PM 2 years ago, and I was there are a lot of companies I actually interviewed for Filio as well. Uh, they also had the system design round for PM as well, and but it wasn't like programming. It was more like uh, the- m- yeah, like how would you think in systems kind of thing. I don't know, like is it different for software engineers? Like do you have to code in the systems design round?
Sometimes. So like
Mm.
I remember my Microsoft internship interview, they asked me to design like a game of blackjack. I did not know what blackjack was, honestly. I asked them to explain me the rules. And I was like, okay, please tell me what the rules are. The person, the interviewer explained the rules to me. And then they were like, okay, design. I asked, like, which interface would you like me to design it, like mobile or web? So they asked for a mobile interface. I designed like the front end. What are the input output signals? I think they want you to go in a little bit more detail compared to
Mm.
like a PM for system design interviews. For PM, you will be more focused on the customer experience and maybe like very high level building blocks of the service. But
Yeah.
in here, they wanted me to go on a little more detail in my distributed system skills. And then I remember I made a component for like shuffling the cards, and they asked me, okay, like you made like a message queue component for shuffling the cards and stuff like that. So can you code it up? So can I like
Mm.
ask that class for it? So then they asked me to kind of implement one function out of that.
Mm. Got it. Okay. So I was asked design a parking system. It's a very common question, I think. And it's it for PMs, and I did get the offer. Did not choose it, but anyway. So for PMs, it's more focused on you asking the right questions. It's not about the solution. So
Exactly.
it was like, so I had to ask them, okay, how many floors the thing is, what is the capacity,
Yeah.
like do you have budget for infrareds and all of that. So like the more questions you are asking, the more clarity you are getting, and then
Mhm.
you propose a solution. They
Yeah.
don't care if the solution is right or not. They care how did you come to the solution.
Yeah.
At least in the product management side of it, I mean, now that I know that the system design round is completely different for software engineers,
Yeah.
so it's interesting. Okay.
You need to
uh,
give a solution in this, or like you can assume some stuff, like communicate to the interview that you're assuming these, and then dive into the solution. I think they care the most about solutions.
hmm. And but like you can also ask like, hey, like do you think I'm going in the right
Yeah,
direction? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I
Got it.
think having a conversation with the interviewer is very important. I mean, you can go on and on in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
But yeah, like the interviewer really appreciates the person asking questions for them, because like at the end of the day, the interviewer is also looking for someone who they can work with, and
Yeah.
nobody wants like a coworker who's not interactive and collaborative.
Right. Yeah. Putting the headset and just coding for like 8 hours. That's not gonna be real life situation. So
Exactly.
uh got it. Okay. So you cracked the assessment type round on campus. You flew to Seattle, amazing 5-star hotel. It was fun.
Yeah.
Uh and uh, and then you had 4 rounds of interview. Was there also like a I've heard Deloitte does this, PW does this. I think the Big Four does this. There is a dinner, like a you do like a dinner round or something where you, because it's a consulting round, it's a
Mhm.
consulting company, so where you actually have to have dinner with a team, and they want to see your conversational skills, because if you are placed on a client side, can you crack a deal or something like that. But I don't know, like, was Microsoft purely like 4 rounds, give me the coding, that's it?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I did not have any dinner rounds. I did have behavioral rounds, but that's,
Mm,
I think, common for both PMs and engineers, that
yeah.
common behavioral questions like resolve conflict in a team, how will you work with low performers, and all of that. So
Mm.
that happened. But yeah, I think after the interview, they were like, okay, go out to enjoy Seattle. We'll reimburse everything, and we'll let you know. Bye.
I mean, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I went for like a very fancy dinner. So they gave us like $75 allowance.
Per
For,
DM, yeah.
yes, and the sightseeing was covered. So basically, we went to see Space Needle, had dinner, roamed around. It was really good.
Nice. And when you say we, there were more Georgia Tech people?
No, I met like few random people. So they Microsoft had like an interview day concept. So they were
Hmm.
interviewing multiple people on the same day. So I met different people interviewing for different roles on that day. So we became like friends, and we made plans together.
Nice, amazing. And is the interview like interviewers? Are they like how intimidating are they? Because when I interviewed for some companies, I did not even feel like I was interviewing, because I felt like I was just having a conversation. But I don't know, like, like, were you nervous? Were you you probably, I mean, again, I don't know. So what were your experience?
I was definitely nervous. I mean,
Hmm.
like I wouldn't lie by saying I was not. I was definitely feeling the jitters, but I think this is where the in-person versus virtual interview comes in, right? In the virtual interview, you're pretty much on your laptop and trying to assess like how the interviewer reacts to your answers, right? Which is, for me, it's harder to do. And I guess I'll be more nervous in like a virtual interview. But when I went there, when you go to like on-site interview, you visit like a new campus, you see different
Hmm.
people working. For me, that eased me out a little bit. I mean, like, yeah, like actual people work here. We're not robots. It's okay to maybe make some mistakes and ask for help in interviews, right? And then they
Hmm.
give like a brief intro before the interview, like, hey, this is how the process will work. You can do this with the interviews. You can ask these questions, no problem. We have snacks. We have this. Feel free to take breaks. So they were very reassuring before the interview. So I
Hmm.
think that
Nice.
eased me out a lot. And then when I went to actually interview, I had no clue who was interviewing me. For virtual interviews, you normally know the person beforehand, and
Yes.
then you log
Yeah.
them on LinkedIn, you see, oh, they are director of XYZ. So you become more intimidated that, oh my God, I'm interviewing the director. But I had no idea who was interviewing me. I went in, it was a person. He or she asked me questions. I answered, and that was it. So I don't
Hmm.
even know what the designation was, what the seniority level
Hmm.
is, right? So
Hmm.
that was, I think, much easier for me.
Hmm. And so is this like one day back to back interviews?
Yes, one day for interviews. Yes.
Got it. Okay. And then you do you have to I know behavior rounds, we'll talk about that in a minute, but for other technical rounds, do you have to like code while they are staring at you?
Yes, whiteboard while they're staring at me. Yes.
Okay, nice. Not nice, but like it's scary. So practice is probably the key to this, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Muscle
Yeah.
memory. Yes. I think in one interview, like the first interview in Microsoft, they asked me to code up like merge sort. And I was like, okay, like that was muscle memory for me. So I didn't even think about, like, I was just writing because I've done it so many times before.
Oh, writing as in whiteboard,
Whiteboard,
whiteboarding.
yeah. But they expect
Okay.
you to have syntax and whatever. So they'll ask like Java, and like they expect you to have some syntax. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So for behavior rounds, how did like wh- so for my way was, I have a story bank. I call it story bank. People call it story toolkit. But essentially, I have 10, 15 stories for every single situation, and then it's like, okay, conflict. I know a story here. I'm gonna say this. They're gonna ask me failure. I'm gonna say this. They're gonna ask me where what I accomplished. I'm gonna ask this. So in your case, how did you prepare for behavior interviews?
That's a great question. So I think a lot of people take the behavioral interview rounds to be light and they can answer on the spot. Like I know a lot of people who do that, but I never do
Yeah.
that. I think I really like your approach where you have like a story bank. I have like roughly three stories for each of the questions. I'm impressed that you have 10, 15 stories for each questions. I do not have that many. I
Yeah.
only have three, uh, which I can remember for each of the question, different kinds of questions. Know
Hmm.
the different types of questions. The types of questions are limited in behavioral rounds, honestly. So if you Google anywhere or like if you search anywhere, you will see the kind of questions people ask in behavioral rounds and kind of have like a layout of the story. So basically, what was the situation? What like star framework, right? So the situation that was basically which arised. What did you do? What was the learning?
Action.
How did
Mhm.
action, like how did you solve it, and the result, like basically. So like the entire framework, I believe, like it's good to have like a layout in mind, but make it more conversational, be it like in a storytelling way, kind of say how it really was important to you, why you're telling the story in this particular context, why is it important to you, and how has it made like an impact in your day-to-day work ethics, right? So that is also very important. Like you can say the result was like, hey, I improved this by 10% or 100%, whatever. But like, what happened after that? You improved that, but did it
Hmm.
become a part of you? Like, do you
Yeah.
still do this? So I think that addition is also important.
Yeah, 100%. It is all storytelling, and I think the most common is like the conflicts. That conflict question is usually like because it is the conflicts do happen in real life, even when you're working. So that's why they want to see how do you deal with the conflict. So absolutely have the story, and like you can't just say like this is what I did, but like you like in my case, like I would just come up with like, okay, I had two engineers. One was a senior engineer and a junior engineer, and there was a code review issue. The junior engineer really wanted to solve this perfectionist way, and
Hmm.
then blah blah blah. So like there's a whole story that you tell, like
Yeah,
here's what was the thing, here's what how I decided like pros and cons and
yeah,
the action we took and the results and blah blah blah. So okay,
exactly.
great. Another thing that happens in the interview is last 5 minutes of every single round they will ask you, do you have any questions for us? Do you say no or do you ask questions?
No, never say no. Never say no. I always tell people to like, if you are not interested in them, why should they be interested in you, right?
Mm,
So, like asking questions to them, like, and having a conversation about them is as essential as doing well in the questions that are asked to you. So, like, always have a set of questions prepared. A lot of people around me or even I am guilty of asking very generic questions like what is the culture of your company, how do you kind of like do xyz. Those are generic questions. It's good like for like maybe beginning, but if you have less time and you like in the end normally you have lesser time to make a really good impact with these questions. So I would say like really do your research on the company, really see what the competitors are doing, what their strategy is, and ask questions about that. So basically,
mm,
I see that your competition's company X has decided to include this feature in the product. Why hasn't your company decided to do this? What is the strategical move and what is the advantage of that? So that'll really show them that you really care and you have done your research on what the company is and maybe what the
mm.
strategy could be. So really ask those insightful questions. And sometimes the interviewers are, when I ask these questions, like, how do you know about this? I'm like, I read this article, I read this blog, and they're really impressed.
Mm.
So really have those kind of questions in your arsenal before you kind of go for interviews.
Yeah. And one of the trick I had learned was like if you're going for big companies and especially the companies that are stock listed, like listed on the like stock market, they do a
Mhm.
quarterly earnings call. So you could listen to that and then ask specific questions to that. Like, okay, Satya said this. So is that where the team is heading for? And they are
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, we even didn't hear the call. So,
Exactly. And a lot of employees don't have the time to listen to their own earning calls. So when you ask them this, they were like, "Oh, where do you? I don't know about this."
right,
So
right.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. You are now got the offer. How was the feeling?
So I got the offer. It was a great feeling, obviously, because I've been preparing quite a while for it. And honestly, if I had to be kind of transparent here, Microsoft was one of my dream companies. I interviewed for Microsoft back in India and got rejected. So I was like, oh, I have to get in this time. So it was a very emotional moment as well. And yeah, I
Did you
mean,
had other offers?
Microsoft was my first offer, and I accepted.
Okay. So even the other offers came in, you're like, doesn't matter. I'm gonna go for it. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. So you turn back like now summer comes, you are doing this internship. You're working as a nice intern. Probably it's like a fun time because I think interns are like there's a low pressure compared to full time employee.
Yeah.
Um, when did you find out that you were gonna get full time offer after the internship?
No, 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 no. 1 week before my internship ended. So Microsoft is a very nice
Oh,
thing. Yeah, so it has a very nice thing of continuous evaluation during the internship. So we had check-ins. So the first check-in was in the first week where I had to define goals with my manager, basically what will make my internship successful and write them down. There was a midpoint check-in at 6 weeks where we tracked like if I'm on track for those goals, if I am like kind of if I have to be corrected and kind of be aligned with this with the certain particular goal in mind. And then my in my 8th week, sorry, 7th or 8th week, I had like a demo that I had to show to my different stakeholders. There was a demo day where I had to present. And then ninth and 10th week was just like polishing up, and my 11th week was my offer discussion. So it went by very fast, honestly, and
yeah.
basically the offer discussion was very formal. So I got called by the recruiter, basically the full time recruiter. I went to their office, we discussed numbers, and then I came back to my manager. So my manager just gave me an indication that the recruiter wants to talk to you, and then you get the full time offer.
Okay. Any tips for people who are probably now pursuing or going to pursue internships? Like, what would you tell them? Like, okay, this is what I would recommend as an intern, and which might help you convert.
Yeah, honestly, I think internship can be a very confusing time because you're working for a very short period of time for like a project. So I would really like the first week that you're there, I would really sit with your manager and kind of define your success criteria. So it's my
Mm.
success criteria to like kind of deliver something to the end customer, come up with a design, like really write it down in words and kind of define your KPIs for yourself as like an intern,
Mm.
and then track continuously towards that. So basically work with your manager for those KPIs. Let them know if you're falling back behind on something, if you need help, let them know in advance so that you really have those things in order at the time when the offer evaluation comes up. So I would really recommend having your manager as a friend. And if your manager is very busy, I can understand there are some companies and some managers who are really busy. Really work with your like internship mentor or internship buddy, whoever you have assigned for these activities. So I think that was the number one reason why I was successful in my internship, because I had those goals defined very early.
Nice. I love it. I do love that idea. Like, write down the KPIs. True PM now. uh, okay. Did you negotiate salary at all, or like did you just accept the first thing they gave you?
No, I did not accept. I did negotiate. Yeah,
Were you
I tried.
scared of negotiating at all, or no?
No, I I
Oh,
do
interesting.
believe that negotiating is a fundamental right for a candidate. So I mean, the worst you can hear is no, and the worst you can say that okay, we can't increase more than this. But it's always good to know. Basically, you are given what you deserve.
Hmm.
And the way you can do that is by doing market research. There's levels.fyi. You can go take a look at it. You can talk to different people who are willing to tell their salary to you and sort of like see how much you can push. The first answer you're always going to get from these bigger companies is no, mostly no. But if you have all of this data kind of with you, you can get more out of your offer. I did negotiate. I did not get a raise on my base, but I did get more stocks and more bonus, so it paid off.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. My recruiter tells me that they always go at least 25 to 30% lower than the actual thing.
Exactly.
So I'm a hiring manager. I hire for my product team and program management team. And I tell recruiter that okay, yeah, it's 150,000 base. We cannot go more than that. But recruiter starts with 125 or
Yeah.
something like that because
Yeah.
they know that this person is going to negotiate. So I need to have some room. And again, this depends on recruiter to recruiter, but I think most recruiters have some room. So always negotiate is what my recruiter had told me. So yeah. One last thing on this whole topic. What kind of, you don't have to tell me your salary, but what kind of salary ranges people make for like SDU role for interns and for full time?
So intern salary can be dependent on the company that you work with. It can be hourly, it can be monthly. So
Hmm.
hourly ranges are from, I've heard, around 60 to 80 per hour, depending on
What?
where. Yeah. Netflix,
60 to 80?
you can cut out the company names later. Netflix pays a lot, basically.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That is. I mean, Netflix. Yeah, you said Netflix pays a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I think the SRE position is like highly paid because
Yeah.
their entire business is depends on making sure the system never goes down. So
Yeah.
yeah, they do get paid really well. But I wow, 60 to 80. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then what about the full time role?
So full time for an entry level software engineer, I would assume your base can go anywhere from like 100, to 130, 140
Yeah,
at the top.
and that again depends on the location as well. Like Seattle, Bay Area, New York can be tentatively higher than smaller towns.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, and then of course the total comp is usually 250, 300K.
Yeah, you can negotiate the heck out of your stocks.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would get that tips. Companies are not afraid to offer more stocks on joining compared to they're more conservative on the base.
Yeah, yeah, and I think for people who might not know, so when there's a lot of these videos come out and they say $250,000 salary or 300,000 salary, most likely the base is half of it, and then rest is stocks, and the stocks also you don't get it in the first go.
Yeah,
You get it after, like most company does 25%,
yeah,
and then 25% in the first year, then second year you'll get 50% of the total, third year
correct.
is 75, and so that's usually how it goes.
That's
Cool.
what we do. Yeah.
Again, thank you, Akanksha. Like I feel I had a masterclass, and I can't wait. I want to explore how did you transition from SD to PM, and I know there are many people who wants to do that. We'll talk about Georgia Tech as well and like your journey at Georgia Tech. But I'll let you go for now. But until our next one.
Keep smiling, keep hustling. Thank you so much.
Nice.